Welcome to the Hot Seat Interview. I'm your host, Maggy Martinez, and today we are honored to be joined by Michael Thurmond, a proven Georgia leader who has served as Labor Commissioner, Superintendent of DeKalb County Schools, and CEO of the DeKalb County. On August 6, he officially announced his run for governor for the state of Georgia with a pledge to put boots on the ground while listening directly to the citizens of every corner of the state of Georgia. So let's dive in.
Hot Noise Radio presents Starbound Studios starring Maggy Martinez and the Hot Seat Interview. Y ahora con ustedes, Maggy Martinez en Caliente.
Well, here he is, Mike Thurmond. He's running for governor for the state of Georgia. So welcome, Mike.
I am so honored, Ms. Maggie, to have received the invitation to come and visit with you. And first, let me tell you how proud I am and appreciative of all the great work that you do. And I'm just delighted and thrilled to be sitting here on the hot seat today.
Thank you. Well, you made headlines. And you made headlines with boots on the ground. First of all, that is a great political film. I don't know who did it, but definitely they did a good job. And I saw you visiting communities and from urban Atlanta to rural Georgia. And according to the recent polls, nearly 60% of Georgia say they feel disconnected from the state leadership. And let's talk about what you're hearing out there, and so people know what people are saying.
Well, thank you so much for your compliment for my team who put together the Boots on Georgia Ground video. But you spoke to something, and it's entertaining, and people enjoy the music and the visuals of all across the state of Georgia, but there's a serious undercurrent there, is that, as you state, a majority of Georgians feel as if they are disconnected from their state government. And so it was very important to me to get out across Georgia, outside of 285, north and south, east and west, to talk to everyday Georgians, number one, about what their issues are, and also what their hopes, dreams, and aspirations can be and should be.
Definitely. Well, tune in every Thursday on YouTube On Demand so you could know how your candidates are thinking, what they bring to the table, what their platforms are, and how this platform will benefit your family and your community. And don't forget, I wrote a book. It's called The Secrets of Campaigning, So You Think You Could Run. It's available on Amazon, only $25. Give it to your daughters, to your friends that are running for office, or for you, because that way you know what a candidate go through. But we
I'm going to purchase a copy myself. I need all the help I can get, so thank you.
You're welcome. And also, just so you know, Michael Thurmond is the author of James Ogletrump. He's the father of Georgia. And you see, it has my little tab I have been reading. So it's important that you know history and what happened and how we developed as a state. So don't forget to buy it. It's also on Amazon, okay? Well, and if you feel it in your heart, we want to continue having this conversation with the people out there, because this is the only podcast that the candidates can come. What we say, that the candidates from governor through the whole ballot, and make sure that their voices are heard, that we have a conversation, and they know what they can bring to the table in terms of what's going to benefit you and your family. Don't forget to visit Starbound PR for any donations. They're important because we need to buy equipment and we have to keep up with technology. Well, as you know, Michael, Georgia is one of the 10 states that has not fully developed or expanded Medicaid, leaving nearly 350,000 citizens without affordable health care. And you know, Governor's Camp partial expansion has been criticized for adding barriers for our citizens. What is your take about that?
Well, even more concerning, there's another 750,000 Georgians who are currently enrolled who are now at risk of losing their medical coverage because of the so-called big, beautiful bill. So if you think about the Georgians who are not insured, and then that's nearly over 1 million Georgians who either do not have the insurance or are now at risk. As your next governor, I will fight to protect and expand Medicaid. The federal bill was really just the beginning. It's not generally known is that if we have the right leadership under the Gold Dome in the governor's office, with the support of men and women in the House and the Senate, we will ensure that not one eligible Georgian will lose their benefits. We can ensure that children will not go hungry because of a denial or a cutback in SNAP benefits. While we can ensure that senior citizens who are in assisted living or nursing homes will have a bed over their head and access to affordable care. The decision is now up to Georgia. We have to put boots on Georgia ground to fight to protect our most vulnerable citizens by reducing waste, unnecessary red tape, protecting our resources, and expanding Medicaid to those who need and deserve it.
Well, Georgia cost of living has risen nearly 18% in the past 3 years, while wages for many working families have not kept the pace. Families are feeling the squeeze, Thurmond, and the gas pump and the daily monthly bills are coming up, and the salaries are not coming up. What is your plan to revitalize Georgia economy so families can make ends meet?
First, we have to reduce taxes, reduce costs, particularly around fees where you access state services, so that for men and women who are working, we got to make sure that work pays. We have to fight for working class men and women, for working families, to make sure that, for instance, with the sales tax, there are certain resources, certain services that we can reduce or eliminate the sales tax, and in some cases, the income tax. We have to also ensure that we have affordable housing. The state of Georgia has to now make a decision, and let me tell you what that decision is. Right now, local jurisdictions like Atlanta and some others, counties and cities, are trying to build more affordable housing. But this is not a local issue. The lack of affordable housing is a statewide issue. We must declare a statewide emergency. We must leverage our state resources through the Department of Community Affairs to partner with local developers and local jurisdictions to create more single-family and single-family homes all across our state.
Well, housing costs in Georgia has jumped over 40%, Mr. Thurmond, in the past 5 years, and even the cost of basic Campington has increased 25% due to the inflation and demand from unhoused communities. How will you tackle housing affordability and homeless in Georgia?
Well, housing affordability, as I stated, must become a statewide issue. It's a crisis, actually. One of the things I've learned during my listening tour outside of 285, we typically associate affordability issue around housing with urban areas, but rural Georgia is suffering as well. And so it's a statewide issue. We must leverage our resources, our $16 billion surplus, working through community affairs, working with local cities and counties, and private developers. What's driving the lack of the affordability crisis for single-family homes is we're not building enough homes. The home construction industry is basically at a standstill. Consequently, without new homes, the prices are out of reach for everyday working, hard-working members. Now, as for homelessness, a large percentage of the men and women we see are homeless are really people with mental or psychological disabilities. I'm not against helping or directing that people who have obvious mental and emotional disabilities off the street and get them the care they need. Ultimately, we have to get people back to work. There's an initiative called Georgia Works that actually employs homeless individuals or people who are between homes in daily by day work. We can help thousands of men and women go to work, earn money so they can support themselves and their families.
Well, the 2026 governor race will be pivotal. Many voters say that they're looking for leadership that can bridge political divides and deliver the practical solutions. Why are you running for governor at this moment, and what will you be your number one priority when you get elected?
Maggie, I've spent my entire career building bridges to create Hispanic, Latino, Asian, Black, white communities to work for the common good of all of Georgia's citizens. But I know something. Sometimes in order to build a bridge, you have to be the bridge. And I am willing, as I've done throughout my career, to sit down and talk with people all across this state, urban, rural, suburban, north, south, east, and west, to overcome some of the challenges. The number one issue will be to build a coalition of the willing, a coalition of the willing, i.e. bringing people together to solve what appears to be intractable problems. I've done it all of my career. I'll do it as the next governor of the state of Georgia.
Well, former President Trump continues to play an active role in Georgia politics, from endorsing candidates to pressuring state officials, which is, this has been one of the main problems that we have, that influence raises concern about state independence. How will you protect Georgia's decision-making from external political interference?
Well, you got to put Georgia first. I will, as the next governor of Georgia, always put the best interest of the people of Georgia before politics, party, or any other affiliation. What we have to do is focus on the issues that Georgians are most concerned about. The one thing I heard all across the state is, Mike, get back to the basics. Mm-hmm. Get back to the issues that we are most concerned about. I want to be able to buy food to go on my children so I can feed my children. I need to buy clothes so that I can clothe my family, to pay rent or a mortgage. That's what my administration will be about, solving problems, and forget the politics. We have to focus on solving the problems. And in order to do it, we got to be Hispanic, Latino, Asian, Black, white, all working together as Georgians and Americans.
Well, since the passage of SB 202 in 2021, Georgia has seen new ID requirements for voting, limits on absentee voting, and not only that, a reduced ballot drop boxes. As a matter of fact, I think they already eliminated all the drop boxes. Civil rights groups say this change has disproportionately affected minority voters. So what action will you take as a governor to safeguard and expand access to the ballot box?
As the next governor of Georgia, I will fight to protect the right to vote. It is the most fundamental right of being an American citizen. I believe to expand the franchise, to encourage people to vote, strengthens the democracy. Any laws that seeks to undermine that in any way will not be supported by myself, and I will do what I've always done, is to continue to fight to ensure equal access, equal opportunity for all of those eligible and willing to cast a ballot.
Well, we have seen examples of whistleblowers, local officials, activists facing legal or political retaliation for challenging powerful interests, and law firms cannot freely stand for clients that sue at the federal level. That could be a chilling effect on our democracy. And also after this, just tell us the situation that we're living around the nation right now.
We have to fight against bullying and intimidation of law-abiding citizens who seek to exercise their basic fundamental rights of free speech, of the right to assembly. We have to stand against that. Here in Georgia, we will. We will ensure that, number one, people who seek to exercise their fundamental rights, whether it's to redress grievances before the government, in court or out of court, those rights have to be protected. And even if those arguments are made against me, you got a right to do it, and that right must be protected.
Well, transportation is an issue. Metro Atlanta drivers spend about 54 hours a year stuck in traffic, and rural counties struggle with limited transit option. What is your vision for large-scale improvement, including public transit expansion and rural transportation access?
As CEO of DeKalb County, I was a major partner We had an excellent partnership with MARTA, and we were able to coordinate and expand some services in DeKalb County. We improved end-user customer service, and we saw tremendous improvements in the service in my county. I will take what we learned and I learned as CEO of DeKalb County working with MARTA and make sure that all of Metro Atlanta where MARTA actually runs has a high quality, on time, professionally run mass transit system. As for rural Georgia, you know, I grew up in rural Georgia. I know the challenges rural Georgia faces, and we have to work with local governments. We have to listen to locally elected and appointed officials and use our resources at the state level to support our local and community leaders.
Well, violent crimes rate in Georgia, largest city has rose during the pandemic and remain above pre-2020 levels. At the same time, there's a push for police reform and accountability. How will you address public safety while ensuring fairness and accountability in the law enforcement?
Well, training. I'm proud of the fact that during my 8 years as CEO of DeKalb County, we increased our public safety budget in law enforcement by 43%.
Wow.
I'm proud that during my last year, we were able to increase our salaries to where DeKalb County had the highest salaries for police officers among large jurisdictions in the southeastern United States. We were the only department to provide triple overtime to police officers, and we were the first to provide hazard pay during the pandemic. We have to stand shoulder to shoulder with our men and women in uniform who are really the difference between chaos in our community and safety. With that being said, training is so important. We have to continue to train. I recently spoke at a conference of law enforcement officials in Athens, Georgia, and it focused on community engagement. We have to train our men and women in uniform, number one, to be safe, but also it's important to have a relationship with the people you're protecting and serving. Consequently, crime will go down. I'm proud that in DeKalb County during the COVID pandemic, we didn't have the sharp spike in homicides that many jurisdictions did, and we saw a continuing decline in homicide. We improved our pay, but we also invested in the community policing. We invested in food drives. Desperate people do desperate things. For 4 straight years, we worked with our police department and fire department to distribute thousands of boxes of food to families who were facing food insecurity.
Well, Georgia's average teacher salary is about $62,000, and a lot of people don't know this. Teachers don't talk. They don't talk about politics. I'm a retired teacher. But when we go to the ballot and the poll places, we make ourselves heard. And teacher salary is below the national average right now. And teacher shortage has grown in rural districts. How will you prioritize teacher salary and classroom support?
Well, as you know, Maggie, I am the former DeKalb County School Superintendent. When I'm elected governor, I may well be the first governor, at least in modern times, who served as a school superintendent. And let me tell you, I learned some important things during my 2.5 years as school superintendent. Let me tell you the first thing I learned. I pictured myself and presented myself as an advocate for public education when I was in the legislature. What I learned is that all politicians need to listen to educators more carefully. You just you have no idea until you walk in those shoes what the realities are, what are the real issues. Of all the jobs I've held, the one that was most enjoyable to me was serving in the school district. Surrounded by 100,000 young people, 13,000 employees, all who've been called to teach because they love our children. And by the way, one thing, the great majority of my teachers, they don't just love the children who may be similarly situated like them, or color, or race, or condition. They love children. And that's what makes those who teach so special. The one thing we have to do in Georgia, continue to improve salaries. I increased teacher salaries when I was in DeKalb County. But I did something else too. I also invested in the parental engagement. Our teachers can teach the math and science, but it's the parents who have to teach behavior and how to sit down and behave in class. So we invested in improving the technical understanding of how parents can positively impact the education of their children. And also, the state of Georgia must weight our funding formulas for poverty. That has not happened. And oftentimes, many of the schools with the greatest challenges, not because of race, but it's because of socioeconomic. But unfortunately, Georgia is not taking that into consideration, not in a major way, throughout our district, throughout the state of Georgia. That has to change.
Definitely.
That has to change in order for us to improve our education. And we got to start rewarding progress. We talk about failure and achievement and failing schools. That is the worst law ever adopted. It's insidious, it's borderline evil to me. It's not about failure. In many of those schools that are considered failures, we see tremendous progress being made of children and families overcoming major socioeconomic barriers.
Well, Thurmond, many down the ballot Democratic candidates struggle with name recognition and resources, which can impact the Paris overall performance in statewide races. A governor without the House and the Senate has no power. We know that. We cannot approve anything if we don't have that. How will you help support and strengthen the entire ticket? And what creative, out-of-the-box strategy will you use to do it? And how can you stop gerrymandering in Georgia?
That's a lot of, but I've been a down ballot statewide elected official. I'm the only candidate on the Democratic side who's actually run as a down ballot candidate. I recognize the challenges that down ballot candidates face, but I also know something. They really are the key to our ultimate success. You have to have a strong ticket, not just at the top, but also at the bottom, and we cannot abandon our candidates who are running for labor commissioner, a public service commission, or superintendent of education. We have to have a top to bottom strong ticket. I recognize that. As the candidate for governor, I will work to ensure that our down ballot candidates receive support and encouragement from the top.
Well, every campaign comes down to a core reason for running, the message that drives everything else. Kamala Harris' message, in a sense, did not resonate the way we're supposed to. Message in a campaign is key, especially when you have to direct your message to the most important thing, family, community. What is the single most important thing you want voters to know about why are you running for governor?
I love Georgia, and more important, I love the people of Georgia. I'm ready for the fight, not for me, but for the future of our state and the future of our nation. Georgia is not the worst state, but we are underachieving. I want to close the gap, and I will close the gap between the Georgia that is and the Georgia that we can become. But we can only do it if we come together across race, class, socioeconomic, and even partisan political affiliation to do what's best for this state called Georgia. I spent my life researching and writing history about Georgia. Georgia's unique. James Oglethorpe founded it differently than every other of the 13 colonies. Economic development, but more importantly, founded as a state that provided humanitarian uplift. As your next governor, I will expand upon that vision and transform it into a 21st century message that will resonate not just across this state, but I think all across this nation.
Thank you, Michael, for coming to the Hot Seat interview.
Thank you so much.
Well, don't forget to tune in every Thursday. Michael Thurmond show will be on next Thursday, so please tune in. Maggy Martinez, the Hot Seat interview. Until next time.